Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another Roll20 review, my written and video view series. Take a look at the marketplace section of online role-playing website, roll20.net. With this video, I'll be reviewing the adventure anthology Quests from the Infinite Staircase, published by Wizards of the Coast and adapted for Roll20. If you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. As always with these videos, will be full of spoilers. We'll be diving into what is in this campaign book, which I feel like really flew under the radar here. This is 2024, and it is right before the release of the new 2024 edition of D&D, which is obviously getting all the attention and love, and poor Quest for the Infinite Staircase released as a anthology, I guess we already had Vecna this year as well, Eve of Ruin, but this one really feels like a celebration also of D&D because it's literally a bunch of classic Dungeons and Dragons modules from 40 years ago and updated for 5th edition. If you're thinking, wait, didn't they already do this with Tales from the Yawning Portal? Yes, they did. Ironically, one of the very few, if not only, like official 5e books I have yet to actually review on Roll20 for some reason. This just takes more of them, basically. I think probably lesser known overall than the ones from Tales from the Yawning Portal. I feel like those were more common. Against the Giants, Dead and Thay, Sunless Citadel, Tomb of Horrors. Even if you only have passing knowledge of D&D, I feel like those names and adventures would kind of ring some bells. Whereas this one, I feel like only probably one adventure, which is the high-level spaceship adventure, Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, is probably the one that's going to be at all familiar for players. The rest of them, I think, are a lot less well-known, at least for me, somebody who isn't well-versed in classic D&D modules. If you are more familiar with the adventures, then please, and maybe you have to wait until this review to know which ones are included here, but let me know if some of these were a lot more famous back in the day or carried a lot of weight or were notable, because I just feel like compared to Yawning Portal, they're maybe not as well known. That doesn't mean, however, that it is a worse product. I really am pretty positive on this entire adventure book. In fact, I can say pretty confidently at the start of this review, I don't think there's a bad adventure here. I think they're all range from basically good to pretty damn great. Definitely helps that they have amazing map artists, unlike, say, Eve of Ruin, which I complained a lot about the map arts for like 75% of that campaign, for example, whereas this one has damn good map art and good qualities that all make it look good in Roll20. So to start, let's see what all we get with our purchase of D&D Quest for the Infinite Staircase from Roll20. The bundle is listed at $29.99, and it includes 6 separate adventure module add-ons. So with a lot of these anthologies, they come with several different adventures that are completely self-contained, right? Back in the day, this was more common to have these modules and not like super, super long campaigns necessarily. Now, there's sort of a way you can combine this into a campaign. We'll get to that later, but at least in Roll20 purposes, when you purchase this bundle, which I believe you can only purchase as a bundle, unfortunately, I don't think they have any other smaller bite-sized versions, you can add all of these individual modules as their own add-ons to an existing campaign if you just wanted to add like one particular adventure, or you could do what I'm doing for the purpose of this review and just create a game that has the entire Quest of Infinite Staircase already loaded in there. So I will actually divide what you get with the maps with the individual add-ons, but I didn't try to go in and do all the work for just doing individual add-ons for monsters and stuff. I'm just going to give you the total for that one. So Beyond the Crystal Cave comes with 2 10-foot square battle maps and 1 region map. By the way, all of the maps included here are 10-foot square battle maps, but they have been subdivided into 5-foot squares. You'll see what that looks like when I show you some maps. Expedition to the Barrier Peaks includes 4 10-foot square battle maps. Pharaoh includes 5 10-foot square battle maps plus 3 illustrative map handouts. I'll show you what that means. The Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth includes 2 10-foot square battle maps and 1 region map. The Lost City includes 4 10-foot square battle maps and 1 region map. And When a Star Falls includes 4 10-foot square battle maps and 2 region maps. That is a total of 19 grid maps battle maps, what are you going to call them, 5 region maps, and then those 3 illustrative maps. That is an awesomely huge amount of content, the likes of which I don't see very often in Roll20. And again, I really like the map art here. So all of that is going to very much elevate this review for me. It also includes around 200 monsters, have stat blocks, tokens, and separate player handouts you can share. About 30 of them are completely new to this book. It includes around 25 named NPCs. Obviously, those are all going to be new and bespoke, but some of them might just be like, hey, it's a noble with this extra weapon or something. But technically, they're considered new monsters. So in total, you get about 50 new monster stat blocks included here. Around 85 included magic items, 10 of which are completely new. Over 75 player art handouts. That does not include the ones that are with the monsters themselves, where you have the separate handout you can share. Those are just like art scenes, for example. The compendium, which just includes all the magic items and creatures that you can then add to any other game on Roll20 that you have. And the art pack gallery, which includes, again, it's in that art tab. It'd be included in this tab right here. And it includes about 150 of all of the tokens which were included from or drawn from Quest of Infinite Staircase. There's 150 in one kind of token art style, and there's 150 in another token art style. So technically 300 total, but really get 150 different tokens. So Quest of Infinite Staircase includes 6 adventures from classic D&D. The way, again, this is if you just created an overall module in Roll20, this is what it's going to look like. Each, obviously, adventure is going to be a separate chapter. And then you've got the first chapter, which is the new, I guess, hub world that they created. Similar to Journeys from the Radiant Citadel, where the Radiant Citadel was an actual place you could go to. I guess I'm trying to think what other adventure anthology did that. I guess that was the only other one I can really think of. Oh, a Candlekeep. I think Candlekeep Mysteries did that as well, right? Because Candlekeep was the obviously hub for that one, so that was like a whole chapter dedicated to Candlekeep. I'm not super into the Infinite Staircase. It looks cool visually, but there's not a lot going on there. It's literally just a bunch of portals, like doors going around. It feels very like, I don't know, Neil Gaiman or Jim Henson or something, kind of a whimsical fantasy thing. There's this Iron Shadow creature that's supposed to be this evil thing that can stalk everybody and is a big problem. Honestly, one of my complaints about Journey from the Radiant Citadel is that the Radiant Citadel itself seemed kind of boring and lame, and I think the Infinite Staircase is even worse than that. I guess just not a whole lot going on here. The one interesting thing going on is the patron, who is Nefas, who is a noble genie, which means he's kind of just a godlike genie who can grant wishes. And he acts as the patron for sending the players off on these adventures. It really thus almost becomes sort of a heist theme, because he's like, hey, there's a problem over here and you guys have to go deal with it. And some of them are literally heist related. In fact, there's one adventure that I really like. You could absolutely run it as almost a reverse heist. It's really clever. But I didn't think it was particularly, super compelling or anything. I would have liked to see, I guess, if they had actually tried to combine all of these different modules, which again had nothing to do with each other back in the day, which, I understand that's an undertaking, but try to weave together some kind of a story. And even if it needs to be some kind of very thinly, like, Eve of Ruin did this, where it's like, hey, all of these places has a MacGuffin that you need to collect in order to stop this big bad, or something, like some way that they connected. But instead, if you want to run it as a campaign, it's like you're working for Nefas, and he's like, hey, he's literally like God. He just hears like problems from all these different extra planar things. And he's like, all right, or I guess he hears wishes. And he's like, oh, you need to go help these people with this, and you go help this person with this. And one of them is literally like, you just need to go and help this one kingdom wants to explore this dungeon. Like, Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth, it's a neat dungeon, but God, there is just no story going on there. So I would have liked to see some kind of update here to make it more of a story. Unfortunately, we don't really see that here. So I think chapter 1 is just, you're not going to get the book for the Infinite Staircase. I will say that. Also in Roll20, you can see that the compendium information is all right here, where you can easily look up all the new, purely the new stuff, the new creatures, the new magic items. You can see the battle map scale here, which is interesting because obviously Roll20 works specifically on a 5-foot, or Roll20, 5e works specifically on a 5-foot grid system. So the fact that they had all of the art work on 10-foot grid systems, speaks to the fact that these are classic modules and they didn't try to redo the maps too much, because maps back in the day were very, very large, but had to be scaled down to obviously fit in, like, book size. So instead of rebuilding all those to make the 5-foot grid work, they just use a 10-foot battle map scale, and then it subdivides. So I'll show you what that looks like, probably with the first adventure of the Lost City. And they are, by the way, in level order in the book. I'm trying to remember where talks about the adventures. Okay, I was hoping for a table, but Lost City is designed for first level. They'll get to, I think, 4th at the end. Then it's When a Star Falls for 4th level. Beyond the Crystal Cave for 6th level. Pharaoh is for 7th level. Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth is 9th level, and Expedition to the Barrier Peaks is designed for 11th level. So really fits that classic, 1 through 13 or whatever scale that every single D&D adventure seems to rely on. Unfortunately, you're not going to get much higher than that, which a lot of the anthology books do. Shout out to Candlekeep Mysteries for going all the way up to like 16th or 17th level. This one does not, however. It just sticks to those pretty core levels, kind of the sweet spot of where D&D adventuring lies. Before we jump right into the battle map, though, I can show you some of the extra stuff that the adventures come with all these days. We've got the Roll20 tips page. This is just going to show you how to work, like, linking stuff to the stat blocks, how to find them, how to work their character sheets. There's another page for dynamic lighting, how that's going to work, how you can put things on different layers. The shift ping system where you can show players what it is. This is the dynamic lighting version, which is really nice. They've been including for a couple years now, so I kind of gloss over it, but you can easily hit Control L, or there's a button now where you can see what they see, and you can walk around with dynamic lighting and see how all the different aspects work. So this is dynamic lighting, by the way, is only for pro subscribers. So you have to subscribe to Roll20 in order to get all these nifty features, which I do highly recommend if you're going to play games on Roll20. It really makes a big difference, especially if you've got the map art to back it up, which this one does, which is awesome. Token page includes all the monsters included in this adventure. However, you can also just take any monster, the camel, and throw it right here, and then you've got your camel. So you don't necessarily need to copy and paste them from here, but they're here if you want to. It also lets you see them visually, so you can really get a sense for how big some of the tokens are, because they're all sized appropriately for how big the monsters should be. And then they give you a blank battle map for whatever reason, in case you just need to throw the players onto a map. You're like, crap, I don't have a map ready for that yet. All right, so let's go over again, there's no real campaign here, and I kind of glossed over, I already mentioned what was in chapter 1. It does include ways for you to start the adventures. In fact, we can just start with Lost City here. I guess this is the starting map, isn't it? Where adventure summary. I do love this. It includes the original adventure, and then it talks about like how it updates the adventures as well. Some of them do include some cool updates. Character advancement is important. Background information. Adventure hooks. That's what I was looking for. So it's got adventure hooks if you're not using Nefas as the group patron. Again, he's kind of the default, where he just tells you, hey, you're just going on a quest, and you got to go do this quest, and you're teleported to that world and that adventure. You can also set these in whatever setting you want. It doesn't really matter for the context of the adventures themselves. A lot of them are set in Greyhawk, for example, because that was the main setting back in the day. But in terms of how the adventure works, and I mean, Greyhawk is almost exactly the same as Forgotten Realms, so a lot of it doesn't really matter one way or the other, but it's nice that they at least included some examples of where it makes sense geographically to include some of these adventures in some different settings, as well as some different adventure hooks that you can include in case you didn't want to have your players getting quests from an all-powerful genie in this weird world of portals, for example. So the Lost City is designed for first level, and it is there's actually 2 desert adventures here. This one starts off very cool, but I don't think it quite sticks the landing in the end. It starts off, it reminds me a lot of BioShock back in the day, Rapture, where this is a lost city that has fallen, but is still full of, not necessarily completely full of monsters. It's kind of got twisted, And the people are even all wearing masks, which is very Bioshock. Like it starts off just a really, really cool theme and idea. I love this cutaway map where you can see like the upper half of this giant kind of underground ziggurat city that you begin to explore. And there's like 6 different layers involved. It's got a lot of really fun puzzles and traps, and they start off, pretty weak because you're supposed to be like first level, although you gain second level almost immediately, like as soon as you start meeting with the people. There's multiple factions to talk to. Each faction worships a different deity amongst these people, and they all don't like each other, which is very video gamey. I feel like you get to kind of choose what faction you want to ally with, and the others will probably be hostile to you, but they each give you different knowledge of the dungeon and different benefits and things. And then everybody's against this one evil faction who unearthed this evil relic that's tied to this evil god, I guess. This is a ridiculously huge 60-room dungeon city, basically. It is enormous, and it works through each level, has its own like themes and stuff going on. This is probably the cool thing that I wanted to showcase, which reminded me of the Tomb of Annihilation, if you know that one, the Gears of Hatred. You can actually sit here and turn. How cool is that? They separated this particular room, which you turn a lever and the entire platform moves and connects 2 different areas. Now, the way the dynamic lighting works is that it doesn't, because you would be able to turn that as well, so it just leaves it all open for tunneling purposes, so that makes it a little bit trickier. But honestly, it's such a cool effect, and I love doing that. I think it looks cool visually, and I haven't seen too much of this since the Gears of Hatred in Tomb of Annihilation, so very, very cool aspect there. Also, Lost City got a lot of love because normally the adventure ends once the party gets all the way down to, this level is mostly undead in it, and you get to level 5, and the cult they're like hanging out playing our like gambling games, like a tavern down here. Like, it's very weird and anticlimactic to me. And then you basically win it when you get to the very bottom of the, you get it when you reach the natural entrance of the place. That's like supposed to be the end goal, is just to reach that point, and there's like a bunch of jackal wares that's kind of the boss. I don't know, it feels very anticlimactic and weird. I'm actually zooming out. You can see how big this freaking map is, by the way. I'm at 50% zoom right now. So one aspect of these adventures that you'll immediately see, which is very much I don't know, trope is the right word, but there's an aspect to these older adventure modules which tend to have these long interconnected hallways that connect these big rooms, very graph paper style. It was fine back in the day, but this time it just looks like you've got a long hallways, basically. And you can tell, here's how the 10-foot grids work. Now I'm at 100% right now. The map looks good, right? The map art is fantastic. Tokens are all very small because these are humongous rooms, needlessly big. And unfortunately, that's just an aspect of these old modules. Like this temple room is 150 feet by 95 feet. That is crazy big. You don't really see that too often in an actual grid battle map. And you can see the tokens are really small as a result. That's fine. That's a solution that Roll20 can do in order to create the 5-foot token. So all these are still 5 feet, but and then if I get to a larger token, you'll see that it would take up. Well, this is actually a huge one, I guess. Giant Constrictor Snake. You can tell that takes up a lot more squares to make it a bigger creature. Ogre. There we go. That's a more 2x2 sized creature. So. I really like the map art, but it is a consequence, and unfortunately that's a consequence of these old adventures, is having these just huge maps with these long interconnected hallways. Probably not the most thing for your players to sit there, and you can see what it looks like from the player point of view. Let's do vision, and let's say that this one's carrying a torch. So we do Control L, and you can see this is what it looks like to explore this dungeon. I'm just moving it along. The doors all look cool and stuff, but it's a lot of super long hallways. So yeah, your mileage may vary with how you feel about these maps. I think they're fine. I enjoy them, but I could see me having to montage my players, over a lot. I mean, look at this one hallway right here. How long is this hallway? We're going to stretch it out from this secret door down here. It's over 200 feet of hallway. Which, if you're describing it to people, feels fine. But if you're actually physically using a battle map and moving your tokens along, probably not so great. So I mentioned this one is very anticlimactic again. I don't think they stick the landing very well. There's no real big, cool, sinister plot or anything like there is or twist with Bioshock. But this one updates the original adventure and adds an entire. So it has the original conclusion here. Ends when the characters escape the ziggurat, likely via the main entrance in Area B57, which is right here, where you can tell there's nothing here. It's just the ending. However, there's what you can do. What does it say? The section adds a sixth layer to the ziggurat, the seeping layer of the elder god Zargon and its cultists, which is the actual evil god that the evil faction worships, which adds this entirely new map on the bottom of it, which feels very dungeony, feels a lot more difficult. This is designed for, I think, at least third, maybe even fourth level at this point. Maybe it's third level. And even you have to, there's a fucking Zargon the Returner down here who's got map token art and everything, which he is ridiculously powerful, and the players are not meant to actually fight this dude quite yet. He's meant to freak him out, basically. But I really appreciate that they added this, basically. I think they had the same thoughts I did and went like, wait a minute, there's no real ending to this adventure. It's pretty anticlimactic, so let's actually make the ending that was kind of promised to the party. Also get this really cool region map called the Underground City, which connects, basically says that they dug too deep, went all the way down here, and you can really expand this adventure if you want to. None of this is included in the module, but I think this map is just absolutely amazing. So a lot of cool ideas with that one where they really went crazy with it. That's all Lost City. Next up is When a Star Falls. I'm just going to take kind of a quick tour through these, by the way, so we can get a feel for what they all look like. I will do my full ranking video, which I know all of you love, where I actually rank them above each other in the future. But for now, this is just going to be an overall review. When a Star Falls is designed for 4th level, originally published in 1984. By the way, Lost City was 1982, which involves finding a falling star in this mountainous region known as the Tegfed Mountains, I believe. Tegfed? This one has 2 different quests when the party starts off, and they start off by defeating defeating this creature, which is like sucked the memories out of this crew that was going to find the falling star. Your first mission is to go find said falling star, but your second mission is to go save basically the quest giver who resides at the Tower of the Heavens, which is this big cool observatory, who saw the falling star. And he has recently become the victim of a coup among his second in command, who was like, man, now's my time to take over. So he's basically imprisoned in his own tower while the bad guys are running the Tower of the Heavens. So I love the story in this one, very much so. And it starts off with a sense of urgency. You go and talk to this druid, which you have to pass her trials, and she tells you where the star fell at Derwith's homestead. Then you go to the Darrow layer, where you actually see where the star fell, and you can see like trajectory right here, which is very cool in terms of how it bashed into this Darrow outpost. And there's a really funny bit where there's a bunch of like zombies as part of the crew who's been working all the labor for the Darrow, which is really fun. There's a Lamia here. Then you can grab the falling star. You can also deal with this construction logging site that the Darrow have been at war with. I think it's entirely optional. And then once you have the star, you go back to the tower and you have to rescue the quest giver with star in hand. And this is a really cool social kind of sneaking around, dealing with the people, because you can like pretend, and you get the information from the ferry goers, the one person who knows things. So I really like the setup here. It's like you're going to turn in the quest, but also it's been taken over by the bad guys, but the bad guys are acting like everything's fine. It's a really, really cool, interesting situation to deal with. It's not like a usual monster-filled dungeon, for example, and we just already had that. So I really like the pacing of this one. Then once you actually do rescue him, the mission's still not over. Then you go to a bunch of deep gnomes, I believe. I'm not gonna try to say their name. That one. This Nifner. Nope, I'm not gonna do it. And you go into their like crazy cool forge, very like arcane punk, and you trade the star for this book of prophecy, which is what this whole quest is really about. And of course, when you do that, the whole thing starts. They agree to the exchange. You have to fight one of their crazy like robot things first. And then the whole place is going to go under. They end up leaving. But the Deep Gnomes were the only things keeping this dragon behind. So there's a big dragon battle at the end. It just has a lot of cool things going on. So this one surprised me. When I first read it, I was like, okay, this seems okay. But the more I read into it, the more I was actually very impressed with how many different things this one uses. Because usually when I look at these old classic modules, I'm thinking, okay, it's a single dungeon crawl somewhere, right? Like 90% of them, it's you get the quest, and you go into this big dungeon, and that's the whole adventure. This one is really not that. This one has like multiple areas of interest, and they've all been given really awesome, battle map art in every step of the way for this adventure. So When a Star Falls, very impressive. Beyond the Crystal Caverns is one that, or Beyond the Crystal Cave, is very different from the others, and it even states it is at the very beginning, where it was kind of designed to be a lot less hack and slash. It's much more, it's inspired by Romeo and Juliet. It even says departure from the most expected adventure designs of the time, and that violent situations aren't an automatic path to victory. Inquisitive minds and compassionate hearts carry the heroes further than strength of arms. That doesn't mean it's all like, Wild Beyond the Witchlight saying like, oh, it's, you can beat the whole thing without combat. It's definitely not that, but I think it actually does the Feywild very, very well. They basically changed it to where it's all Feywild now. Essentially, these two lovers from Warring Kingdoms, which is the Romeo and Juliet thing, have eloped, and you end up tracking them to a Feywild demi-plane, or the Feywild is its own thing, which has an area called like the, what's it called, Eternal Garden. First, you have to battle your way through this little cave, and then you go through the portal to get to the Eternal Garden. And then once there, this is the only one that's kind of tricky on Roll20 because it's one big region map and doesn't have individual maps for all these different locations, but there are a bunch of really fun situations and encounters in all of these areas. There's friendly dragons, there's sassy fairies and leprechauns, a showboating chimera, the philosopher unicorns. I don't know if I can find the handout for that one. They're wearing like top hats and stuff. It's absolutely delightful. But I was very impressed with this one. There we go. Yeah, there's the image. That's fabulous. This one really did remind me and give me that fun, like Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass, just interacting with a lot of fantastical creatures in very fun ways. It seems like a very fun role-playing point of view where you get to do a lot of fantastical creatures who are maybe very strange. If the players buy into all of that and they're willing to deal with a lot of these creatures socially, that's not to say there's a lot of there's not combat opportunities. There certainly is. There's some monsters that are just out there to fight you, and I mean, we just saw that cave dungeon you have to even reach this place for. But the actual climax is you get to this palace in the middle, which, by the way, I love the way this palace is set up, where actually I guess it's in the Eternal Garden under G19, maybe? No, it's under G shoot, where is it? G17, 19, 20. Here it is. Nope, maybe. Yes, the sundial, G21, hedge maze. You have to go to certain areas in order. Basically, the final place is locked. Your first mission is to figure out where the hell this couple went. You have to go around and explore and talk to people. And then your next mission is to figure out, okay, now we know where to go. Let's go there. But then you find out it's locked, and it requires different objects from around this whole area. So it really gives a lot of the guidance to the party, and it's up to the party, and thankfully this map is really nice, to decide, okay, we need these couple objects, we can probably get them from these few areas, where should we go and how to tackle that. So very open worldy. I think it really scratches that itch very well, and it has like just a lot of that fun Feywild stuff. It doesn't, if you're big into dungeon crawls, it doesn't have that, but there's plenty of dungeon crawls in this overall campaign. This is another one where I initially thought, okay, I'm probably not going to like this one too much. It's not really my cup of tea. But damn, I was actually very impressed. In fact, I might have been more impressed of this one than what Wild Beyond the Witchlight ended up doing with the whole like hag thing on that one. So I thought this one just tells a more interesting story, and then the actual climax, you get to explore this little dungeon here, and it's very, very, it's like this paradise thing, and you have to basically convince them. In fact, the waters are kind of a drug that basically make you not want to leave this place, which it does seem pretty nice. And you have to kind of convince them, and that's where some battles may take place. But honestly, it's kind of just a social role-playing scene, which I think is a nice, different climax for a lot of D&D groups. So another thumbs up for Beyond the Crystal Cave. Pharaoh is the one that I feel like could be a really clever heist mission. This is the 7th level one, originally published in 1982. Again, actually, a lot of these were early 80s. This is another mega dungeon, and unlike the others, it really doesn't have a... I don't think it really has a desert thing. Or yeah, it does. Never mind. It has a whole desert encounter thing. One of them, I think it was Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth did have an encounter thing too. Maybe it's Expedition of the Barrier Peaks. There's one of them that didn't specifically have any outdoor encounters. This one does. But this one, you meet what would you think would be the boss of this entire adventure, who is the Pharaoh, and he's cursed. He's wandering around. He's saying, hey, I was cursed because I spent all my time and energy and stuff building this massive tomb, and my people ended up like, revolting and killing me, and I was cursed to forever wander these lands until someone actually does plunder my very well kept and secreted and guarded tomb and plunder the treasure. So he's literally telling you to please plunder his stuff in order to set him free, which I think is a fabulous kind of twisty way to start an adventure, and makes it a heist because you're told to steal some shit from a dangerous area. That's a heist. So I think this would be perfect for Keys from the Golden Vault. This is 7th level, and you go in through the false entrance at the top. You can meet with these folks who are like archaeologists and researchers. This whole area is open to the public. There's some puzzles and traps, but it's all very false and hidden mimics and shit. What you're supposed to do is like burn food or something at one of these locations that actually teleports you deeper into the dungeon. And this one is the Maze of Mist. This looks absolutely insane on Roll20. Let me scroll out and show you. And this has multiple levels. This is the adventure with the illustrative maps, because you really need to understand how it works like three-dimensionally with some of these locations. This one's actually a good example right here. This is a purely illustrative map. So this is included as a player handout, but also you could literally put your players on this map if you wanted to show them like how the three-dimensional stuff works here. So the fact that this is one, level right here, then it's actually open up here, and it continues over there, and then there's also a cracked wall where a trapped gnome is like tapping on it because he's trying to get out from his section there. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting verticality with this map. All these observation domes on the side where they overlook different areas, where you can see that's what this one is depicting here, where all of these are like a glass ceiling that you can kind of look up and down with. It's death traps, it's monster filled, it is just a huge dungeon. But again, I think I like the verticality of it, and it does have a proper boss fight at the end where you fight basically a different kind of undead priest who might as well be the Pharaoh, this chap right here, in a pretty cool like little gauntlet mission here. But I think it's a very well designed dungeon crawl. It's got that cool like desert Pharaoh Egyptian theme pretty well. It's got great map art, and again, I think the verticality is very unique, and I think it's done well here because normally that's very hard to do in a 2D battle map like a Roll20, but I think these illustrative maps really help quite a bit. So another thumbs up for Pharaoh. Moving on to Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth. I actually reviewed the tournament edition, which only includes the first level, slightly tweaked. Earlier, I think it was earlier this year, in fact, it was on D&D Beyond. This is the full version of the adventure, and one of the few that I actually did have heard of before. This was published in 1982 again, although it was originally that tournament-style adventure was run in the 70s. This is where you explore a long-gone wizard's lair. And there's no real story here. Some of the others have a very thin pretense of story. Others, like Pharaoh, is kind of a thin story. But others, basically the first three, all have a very heavy story that's involved throughout that entire module. This one has the least story of all of them. It's literally just, hey, we found the location of this very crazy, powerful, who is Tasha, basically. Elder archmage wizard. She had all kinds of crazy monster shit down there and treasures. Go in there and loot it out. And that's the entire story. There's really no other story. That being said, it's a pretty awesome dungeon crawl. First you have to find the damn thing, which is a whole bit, which I can't believe we're making the players do that after also saddling them with a gigantic 2-layer mega dungeon crawl. But they have to hex crawl around these mountains and meet these different monsters, and some of them want to kill each other. Others are people that you can talk to get the information from. There's a little riddle involved with turning your back to the horn and going down to the actual entrance here. But it's a very neat little hex crawl map. But the real meat is, of course, the Caverns. So if you saw my D&D Beyond review, you'll recognize the Lesser Caverns picture here, which had the Behir, who is a famous cover creature, which is here of the original, was the actual boss of the Lesser Caverns. Instead, he is now properly in the Greater Caverns area. And he's not really the boss. There's not really again, there's no story here. There's no real final. I guess never mind. There is a final boss. I guess the vampire lady at the end is the final boss. There's a lot of monsters in here, though. This is for 9th level. I believe you make 10th at some point in this adventure. So we're talking about a pretty high level dungeon crawl. It's got very classic Gygaxian like death traps and riddles and misdirections and things going on here with, I love that, all these old stone faces that all tell you different things about which direction to go. It's a super big open-ended. There's rivers, there's monsters, there's multiple kinds of genies that hate each other. There's a water full of gas, this hidden chimera and gorgon here at the end, and your goal is to make it to the bottom layer. And this is where things get really interesting, because this second layer, the greater caverns, the goal is to make it to this middle section, which is Tasha's inner sanctum, which includes all of her treasures. However, it's got these weird, long hallway doorways in a circular formation, and the way these operate is that the first time you step through any of these doors, you are teleported to a different area around the dungeon, which is thankfully very easily marked in Roll20 with the little annotations on the GM layer. So when the first time you make it through hallway G19A, you'll teleport to G20A, and 19B, 20B, and so on. It matches it, obviously. And they're located at certain locations. So it'll force you to teleport around the dungeon. The goal, which hopefully the players figure out, or you can let them figure out like an Arcana check, is that you have to just go through all 6 hallways, and then once you go through the 6th one, it properly lets you into the inside. But it'll force you to basically go around and teleport to all these different areas of the dungeon, in which case you may end up very turned around and end up in all these other, monster-filled areas and have to deal with all these different creatures. There's our Bahir friend. There's also an adult black dragon hanging out in here. There's a stone giant. There's a stone golem, I believe, that you can, it's a leave a penny, give a penny for magic items thing going on there. Demon, a Balagura. Up there, this area in G9 just teleports you to different dangerous planes where there's all these crazy encounters. If you want this is the opposite of Beyond the Crystal Cave, right? If you want your giant hack and slash death trap dungeon crawl, boom, and you really don't care about a story at all, then Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth is probably the one for you. This one, interestingly, I thought I would like a lot, and instead I think is okay, just because they really didn't do much storytelling with this one in the end. But I think if you like that kind of thing where it's just pure hack and slash death trap dungeon, there's certainly a lot of content here between the 2 giant levels. Finally, we get to the creme de la creme, in my opinion, the one probably everybody is the most interested in finding out about, which is Expeditions to the Barrier Peaks. This one is designed for 11th level, was published in the 70s, and is a fucking spaceship with a cool ass map art that I think it took me a second to be like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Even the little outdoor area, which nobody sees, is beyond the map. Looks like it's a heads up display. I mean, look at this. This is fucking adorable. I love this map art. And this is absolutely bananas. It has a lot of tropes, but this was the 70s also when it was originally published, right? It's got the evil supercomputer, which is now a whole thing, but back in the day, this was just basically barely inspired from. In fact, this might have been published before Alien. I don't even know how the timing is of there, but it's a huge, mega, multi-layered spaceship dungeon. This very UFO-shaped spaceship has crashed somewhere in the mountains, and the quest is just, hey, this place is now opened up, and it's I guess it's been open for a while because there's a lot of monsters already infesting the area. The supercomputer killed everyone on board. Of course, it turned evil. I guess 2001: A Space Odyssey, I think it happened by now, which is probably the main inspiration. And released a mold, which created a bunch of Vegapygmies, and then there's a bunch of robots here. Its directive is to kill everybody of the original scientists. There's one scientist left on the 3rd level, and there is a giant froghemoth who is guarding the 3rd level, guarding the way to that scientist who's in stasis. So when the party comes on, explores this area, the supercomputer automatically activates, sends a robot to recruit them and say, hey, go talk to me, and you can talk to the big computer, and the computer's like, hey, here's my quest. So you get the quest in the adventure, which is very cool, once you get inside. And that super evil computer, whose name is Alfie, is a part of this adventure throughout. A lot of D&D adventures, the quest giver or whatever is like, all right, let me send you on your quest, and then they're gone for the rest of the campaign. This one, no, it is involved through the whole thing. It can turn off lights. It can, open doors for you. It's got the robots. And depending on how you interact with the AI is how much, assistance or trouble it'll give. And in the end, of course, you'll make it to the final level in the stasis, and that's when the AI actually turns on you if you haven't already, and sends all the robots and stuff because it just couldn't get there because of the giant monster that it needs the parties to defeat. However, every single level also involves the supercomputer has a task or multiple tasks for the party, and that's actually divided up into Philion's errands in Roll20 in the journal entries. So it has basically a quest for every level. So automatically, this one feels like a better, more involved dungeon crawl than Lost Caverns of Tsoj-Canth, for example, because you have active stuff to do on every level. There's a lot of interesting role-playing opportunities. There's a smorgasbord of creatures. At one point, there's a bunch of mind flayers, like watching television, I think. This is all the first level, which has like the medical bay and the armory and all that. The second level is like this observation deck. Yeah, there we go. There's a giant screen right here, auditorium, with a couple mind flayers just watching TV, and there's like a bar, and there's a friendly AI that you can find named Oakley, who will join the party and tell them these things. A friendly android, I should have said. A boxing ring and all these just really, really fun stuff they do with the whole idea of a sci-fi spaceship. Of course, there's a lot of the new magic items are here because they're all like laser rifles and stuff. I totally get if you don't want to introduce this stuff to your party and you think, well, this isn't D&D. Although I have two thoughts on that. First, this is D&D. This has been part of D&D since the 70s, apparently. And second, give it a damn try, because this looks like a really cool, compelling adventure. Pure dungeon module. I think this is the one that doesn't have anything outside of the spaceship. It's just purely basically starts when you walk through the doors, and the whole thing is this giant, whatever it is, 60 or 70 room mega dungeon. But it's got a really cool involved story the whole time, and just feels very memorable because you're in this really cool self-contained sci-fi setting. Here's kind of the final boss, which is the Froghemoth Elder you have to defeat in order to make it down the stairs. And then level 4, technically it's a 4-level dungeon, but really it's 3 levels plus this like final area that's the server room. There's really nothing much on this outer end. You can see, oh, there's these like locked key cards, which you could see. I should have pointed that out. On these levels, you can actually, level 1's probably a better one to show you, but the different key cards that the players earn, like very video gamey, and they are color coded in Roll20. So you got like purple, blue, I think, yeah, yellow, red, or some other colors. And of course, you can only access some of them if you gain certain key cards. I think this is all very fabulous and well put together, and looks really good on Roll20. Really shout out to the art crew, especially with this map, because I feel like we're well established on what like fantasy maps should look like in 5th edition, and this was like had to be completely like out of the box in order to create what looks like a very, very cool looking, memorable map design. So another thumbs up. And guess what? It's been thumbs up across the board if you've been sticking with me for this long of the review. I didn't really have, I had maybe some criticism along the way, but I was very impressed overall with these modules, how well they hold up, in this modern 5th edition age, or soon to be maybe 5.5, and all of the kind of little updates they make. I only talked about the Lost Cities updates, but others just include different ways in which the module might have been moved around in some ways. Just, the way they updated certain rooms maybe, or shifted monsters. And, so not just stat blocks and art, but there were some maybe slight changes in some of the way the rooms were designed. I think Aphelian's errands might have been one of the new things included in this one, where it's like, hey, this way we can direct you to some of these more interesting locations, so you're not just making a beeline, right down the dungeon itself. All right, let's go over my pros and cons for Tales to Infinite Staircase. Pro, all 6 adventures are solid, ranging from good to great. Honestly, I didn't find a bad egg amongst them. Pro, welcome updates to a lot of the adventures, such as adding that 6th entire layer to the Lost City. Pro, fantastic map art for each adventure, and the fact that we just get 19 of those grid maps plus multiple region maps for all of these really helps sell this adventure, particularly on Roll20. Now, cons, yes, every grid map is a 10-foot square map that has to be subdivided. That part does suck, and that is a consequence of these old adventures. The fact they were built with these long-ass, graph paper hallway styles, I don't think translates as well to a modern virtual tabletop, but I get why they didn't want to just completely redesign these adventures and build them from the ground up using that new art style. So I'm okay with this adaptation, but it's something you should know getting into this, that you will probably be playing zoomed in a lot of the time. Thankfully, the resolution looks good enough to zoom in if you need to play with the subdivided grids. And then my main con is probably that the actual chapter 1, the Infinite Staircase hub world, they don't really do anything with that to make it interesting. I think it's actually less interesting than Radiant Citadel, for example, and also was a big fan of Radiant Citadel for a hub world point of view. So I would have liked them to. I think what would have helped sell it for me is if they came up with a better campaign to try and bring all these different modules, which again had nothing to do with each other normally, into some sort of overarching campaign plot. Maybe even have like a final showdown in the Infinite Staircase, like something to make it more interesting rather than just like, hey, here's your quest giver, and he just sends you on these missions. I think is a little boring. Final verdict: Tales from Infinite Staircase offers a varied buffet of less famous and more eclectic classic D&D modules with welcome updates and excellent map art that looks great in Roll20. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on the channel. And you can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. Shoutouts to platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Dan, Brandon, Zensider, Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Tyler, Nathan, Camp Crystal Lake, Counselor, Andrew, Daryl, The Reldron, Stephanie, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Limpy Spudge, Sharni, Warden, Harold, Sam, Eudaimonia, LLC, Jamie, Reese, Tama, Lucius. And gold patrons: RPG Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Dead Lizard Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Fazagatorta, Scott, Refus, Carolyn, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support.